Schmidt, who will give the introduction to our gold medal recipient this year, Roy.
Madam President, members of the Acoustical Society of America, delegates to the Acoustics 2012 meeting, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great honor and a personal pleasure to be able to present to you the 2012 recipient of the Gold Medal of the Acoustical Society of America, William A. Kuperman. Bill is an icon in underwater acoustics, there's no doubt about that. He's the undisputed founder of the field of computational ocean acoustics. There's a book named after in exactly that way, but it's usually called the Kuperman book, in spite of the fact that his name is hidden in between three other authors. Again, his scientific contributions have been well recognized. 17 years ago, I had the pleasure on another occasion, at another meeting, of presenting him for the silver medal, for the Pioneers Medal in Underwater Acoustics. And he's received many awards since then for his contributions and his impact. Latest, the Walter Monk Award of the Oceanographic Society, and which was presented to Bill last year at the Acoustical Society meetings. So in his scientific impact is undisputed and well known to everybody, I assume, in this room. But really his impact has been magnified by something else. He's a brilliant scientist, but what's more important is his uniquely unselfish and loyal personality and deeply rooted sense of service. In terms of service, he has served in almost every capacity you can in the Acoustical Society of America. The Acoustical Society, by the way, he claims is his only society. He's not a member of any other society. Until health problems kept him away, he was participating in every single ASA meeting from the day he became a member of the society until a few years ago. But again, more importantly, I want to say a few words about his personality. Bill has had an incredible ability to collect young scientists, young talent around him. And we've often been wondering why that was. And I think we're finally figuring it out. When we are talking, those of us who have you've been fortunate enough to be under his wings, we always joked about the fact that when you're together with Bill in his office or anywhere else, could be anywhere, over a cup of coffee, he would throw out one idea after the other. And as we always joke that out of 100 ideas he threw out, 99 were absolutely crazy. But there was one that was really good. But then what he did was to take these kids he had collected around him, let them run with it. And there's the trick, and I think we finally figured it out. There was his trick. That those people who were able to figuring out which one of those 100 ideas was the good one, they could go with it, and he would give them all the credit without ever claiming that it was his idea in the first place. And I think that's a deeply rooted characteristic of Bill's, and it's a really big part of his success. And those of us who's had the fortune to work with them over the years, it's something that's clear to us that we would never, and there's a lot of us in this room, it's pretty clear to us that we would not have been in this room, we would not have been in this society, some of us would not have been in the United States if it wasn't for Bill acting as he was, as a totally unselfish mentor. And it's not only while you work with him, also later on, in your career, he would keep pushing and he'd be helping whenever it came to promotion cases, whether it was appointments to to Fellows of the Society. I don't know of anybody who's been nominating more people as Fellows of the Society than Bill has. So those of us who've been fortunate enough to work with him, we look back at our career with a lot of gratefulness to Bill for his role as a mentor. He's truly, in our mind at least, the mentor par excellence of the Acoustical Society of America. And Madam President, allow me to present to you Professor William Kuperman for being awarded the ASA Gold Medal for leadership in underwater acoustics, mentoring of generations of acousticians, and for service to the society.
Thank you, Henry, and thank everybody here. My extended family is so large that I know I'd get in trouble if I started mentioning names, because I'll probably leave out people. So my solution is to minimize that and not mention most people. But it's only because there's so many of them that is the reason that I'm here. And I want to explain why. At the beginning of my career at the Naval Research Lab, Ralph Goodman, who was the associate director and eventually we became very, very close friends, asked me why I came to work in underwater acoustics. I apparently gave him some nonsense answer, and he retorted, "Come on, you don't go into underwater acoustics, you end up in underwater acoustics." In truth, I had applied for work in the plasma physics division of NRL, but they wouldn't have me. So it was actually an accident that I ended up in acoustics. And now, years after that initial question, I'm here with all my friends in acoustics. In between, I've spent 3 years at sea in various oceans and traveled to and lived in exotic places. I've accumulated many wonderful friends, worked national and international research laboratories, and for the last 20 years I've enjoyed the pleasure and privilege of a university life at the University of California, San Diego's Scripps Institution of Oceanography, which is a fabulous place. And I never planned all this. Maybe I'm following Lefty Gomez here, but it was all an accident. More or less the same day I moved to Washington to start at NRL, I met my future wife, Gabby. And the next thing I knew, I had 2 kids and 3 grandchildren and plenty of family adventures that are still going on. At NRL, I had the accidental good fortune of starting my career with senior people whose major proclivity was to foster the growth of young scientists. My immediate boss was an engineer who demanded, after being told about shallow water acoustic normal modes, that we go out and measure them. I thought he was nuts. These are just mathematical constructs. It sounded like he wanted us to recover some sort of sunken stainless steel Green's function. Frankie Janito, my first real scientific mentor, designed the experiments, which I basically went along as a deckhand, in which we measured these guys. And those initial results still stand as benchmarks of the field of shallow water acoustics. It was an accident that I was at the right place at the right time. But it was there at NRL that I learned that in any research establishment, if 51% of the product is the scientists themselves, then the remaining 49% would follow in good science. A few years later, I was going to a meeting at Sackland Center in La Spezia, Italy, and I stumbled into Ralph Goodman again at the Milan airport, and he was renting a car, and I was a junior scientist, and I planned to take the train. But he invited me along, he threw me the car keys, and said, hey, kid, drive us to Parma, and I'll show you a good restaurant. After half a day and a great meal, he asked me, as we were driving on the last leg of the trip to La Spezia, if I had considered going to Italy to work. And there's that word again, work. I'd already been to the lab once, and I had been wined and dined by a bunch of Danish, Turkish, German, and Italian hedonist scientists. So I did think that this might be a pretty good place to work. So I brashly asked, how do I go about getting a job there? And he said, you just ask me. So it was another accident of bumping into my boss at an airport those 5 wonderful years doing motion acoustic research on the Italian Riviera. At Sacman Center, I worked with lifelong friends-to-be. It was a strange place because it was a NATO lab, so it belonged to many countries. There, Finn Jensen and I got into the habit of giving away all our models and results that we developed, and in return, the whole community not only came to us and expected from us new products, but they also freely shared with us their new results. Before we knew it, the center ended up as the focus in underwater acoustics starting in the late 70s. It wasn't premeditated. That would be giving management too much credit. It was just an accident. But eventually, our computation acoustics book grew out of our Sacman Center-related episodes. However, one accomplishment I'm particularly proud of at Sacman Center, which was not an accident, was that I teamed up with a Norwegian scientist and we went to a different restaurant for lunch every day for a year. For that, I was the first recipient of the NATO Eating Award. As a matter of fact, there was only 2 recipients in total. As for mentoring, Henrik just mentioned my influence. Well, when at Sacman, some of my work including adopting a spectral code to other applications. After I left, Finn Jensen asked Henrik to continue some of that work, and he was given the codes I had developed. I was told afterwards that Henrik looked at them and immediately threw them into the garbage where he said they belonged. That was the beginning of Henrik's groundbreaking Safari Oasis models. So you don't even have to try very hard when mentoring. Accidental outcomes are okay. So that's it. Next, at the Naval Ocean Research and Development Activity, I was a division head of acoustics and ocean modeling, and they had lots of accidents down there. For example, it was a new lab and we had trouble recruiting people. Once I got a call from one of my scientists who had stopped in a gas station while driving through Florida and told me that the gas station had a master's degree in mathematics from Stanford University. I said, hire him. That hire soon afterwards developed the RAM parabolic equation model, our community's longtime standard for range-dependent propagation. And as part of the Navy laboratory, we eventually sent him to get his PhD at Northwestern. In 1984, I returned to NRL, and among other things, I was asked to propose a collaborative program, but with the practical caveat that it should not conflict with internal ongoing research programs. Not being too excited about that assignment, I conjured up a program on a subject that I thought nobody would be interested in. The program sold big time, and we had multiple very successful experiments in many exotic places. This was an accident with a capital A. In 1993, I was offered a professorship at UCSD, as well as an appointment as director of NPL, with its bizarre FLIP platform. FLIP was designed by a previous director, who was a World War II submariner, and his idea of comfort was that the senior scientist sleeps in a cabin for 4 instead of the other cabin for 8. There were memorable experiences on FLIP, like the time we had a substitute cook who loaded the vessel when it was horizontal, but it took him a whole day to find the food after we flipped to the vertical position. Lately, I've been working with students, postdocs, colleagues in various ocean acoustic projects. A real accident actually occurred on a joint program cruise with MIT and Sacman Center. The ship ran aground near the same place this recent Italian cruiser did. We were marooned on the island of Pianosa, which is used